What's up, guys? Talking a little bit of college basketball real quick. How's everybody doing today? I can't talk right. That's how my day's going. Alright, so let's go over here. Alright, here we go. So a lot of people like to look at the rankings whenever they're doing their seeding for their mock brackets. That's not what I do. What I do is I look at the actual standings. Sorry, guys. I get distracted by my phone sometimes. But I look at my actual standings for ESPN, and I go by that. And, of course, quad 1 wins, good wins, bad losses, stuff like that. So I don't really put that much stock into rankings because that's just the opinion of the AP voters. Sometimes you might have a different opinion than them. So that's why you take the rankings with a grain of salt. Of course, you always want your team to move this up. You always want your team to climb in the rankings because that's a sign that your team is doing good. Doesn't necessarily mean that your team is going to get a better seeding than somebody who is ranked lower, if that makes any sense. I'm thinking about moving this camera because I'm having to, hold on a second, guys. Bear with me. I'm going to lower this. That way I can see the screen a little bit better. Alright, so whenever I'm doing my brackets, I look at conference standings, and then, of course, I look at what kind of wins and what kind of losses. Rankings really don't mean anything, because if you go under standings, conference standings, you'll actually see teams that are, ranked lower but are ahead in the standings. So that's what I look at whenever I'm doing this. My cat's being super loud. I swear, every time I go live, my cats are the loudest they are the entire day. I think they know what's going on and they're jealous. Alright, so we got Lenny. What's going on, Lenny? Ballard's in the house. What's going on, man? I haven't seen you here in a while. Sports Prod. Mississippi Valley State winning it all. Yeah, but hey, put money on it if you're that confident, man. That would be a huge payout if that school actually exists and if they actually won it. Who are the number 1 seeds? I have Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, and Illinois. Illinois just beat Michigan, so to me that pretty much, lean this down a little bit. That pretty much solidifies them being a 1 seed. They have great wins. They were already ranked in the top 5, and no bad losses. So yeah, I have Illinois as a 1 seed. It's gonna be a big war for the 2 seeds in the Big 12. You got Kansas, you got West Virginia. I think Oklahoma is mathematically eliminated. I'd have to go double check that. So Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Kansas, and possibly Texas. I think Texas Tech is mathematically eliminated as well. I'll have to double check on that, but yeah, that second place, that second place spot for the Big 12 is up in the air, to say the least. So I have no idea how that's going to turn out. Make sure to hit the like button. Always appreciate it. Believe it or not, it does help with the algorithms for YouTube. That helps me out, keeps me going, and I sure do appreciate it. The big story, man, guys, Duke. What in the world is going on at Duke? To me, that's a big story that nobody's talking about. They actually were making a push towards the NCAA tournament, and then I'm looking at it right now. Then they lost to Louisville and Georgia Tech back to back. So they were setting themselves up nicely. They had a win over Virginia and a win over Syracuse, so they were trending in the right direction. Well, now they're 11-10. They're 8th in the ACC, and they lost to Louisville and Georgia Tech. And that's double bad for Duke because, number one, they're losses. Number two, those are losses to teams that they are directly competing for or competing with for a spot in the NCAA tournament. So that's like a double bad thing. Losses suck, but then losing to a team that you're actually battling for that spot. So the playoff committee is going to see the resumes, and they're going to see that the teams are going to have wins over you. You're not going to get that spot, Duke. I don't care that your name's Duke. You're not going to get that spot. That's if that were to happen, I would not be too happy. So before those two losses, they were sitting at 11-8, still not great, but they were gaining some good wins, and then that 2-game losing streak. Right now, and I talked about this in my video as well, the team that's really coming on strong in the ACC, and surprising me, is actually Georgia Tech. They're 14-8. They just beat Duke. They are actually on a, let me count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Georgia Tech is on a 5-game winning streak. The only game they have left is at Wake Forest. I mean, a loss there would definitely hurt Georgia Tech, but to me, I think Georgia Tech is, I think they're in. I would have Georgia Tech as maybe, I know in my video I had them in a last four in scenario, but they might actually be more of a lock than even that because they got some great wins. I mean, even recently, win over Duke, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. Let's see, let me go back further. They got a win over Florida State. They got a win over Clemson. A win over North Carolina. I mean, yeah, they had a couple of bad losses at the beginning of the season, but this is not the same team that we saw. And even Mercer is not a bad loss. Mercer seems like a bad loss, but they're actually really good in their respective conference. So even that's not a bad loss. I think Georgia Tech's going to make it into the tournament. So, Sea-Dog, there you go. I'm fairly confident that the Yellow Jackets are going to make it. Pretty confident. I would say maybe 90%. Now, I had one of my subscribers ask me about my seeding for Ohio State, and I can get why he was a little mad at me for that. I have Ohio State as a 4 seed, and basically the best way I could explain it to him was, at one point I did have Ohio State as a 1 seed, and then they've had 3 straight losses. Let me pull this up real quick. They've had, hold on. Let me do it on here. I keep forgetting I have a laptop right in front of me. All right, so let's go to Ohio State. So, Ohio State, they, at one time, were actually doing really well. Really well. And then you see these last 3, LLL. Now, those are decent teams. Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, right? And they do have a really good chance to redeem themselves against Illinois coming up. I think today, actually, here in just a few minutes. Yeah, 4 o'clock. So that's a pretty important game for Ohio State as far as seeding. They're not in any danger of not being in the tournament, of course, but it's a big deal. So basically, the reason why I had Ohio State as a 4 seed is number one, that 3-game losing streak, and number two, the teams around them that are, competing with them for those top 4 spots in each region, they're actually doing pretty good. I mean, you're looking at, Michigan beat them head to head. Illinois, no, that's March 6th, my bad. Illinois just beat Michigan. Ohio State's going to get a shot at, Ohio State's going to get a shot at Illinois. But I can't ignore that. I mean, let's see. Close game against Michigan. Pretty close game against Michigan State, and then getting blown out by Iowa. So maybe Ohio State's losing some steam. Iowa is doing really well. I actually raised their stock. Illinois, they're a solid number 1 for me now because they just beat Michigan. You got Michigan up there. Baylor, of course, Gonzaga. West Virginia just lost to Baylor because they kept shooting themselves in the foot. But before that, they had won, I believe it was 5 out of 6. Something like that. So West Virginia's a solid 2 seed. They're pretty hot right now. So just stuff like that. And, I could understand somebody being upset with me for, an Ohio State fan for being upset with me. They are number 7 in the nation. And they do have some pretty good quad 1 wins. I'm just looking at, as of recently. I mean, they're for a while. I mean, seriously, they're for a while. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They were on a 7-game win streak. They got hot. And that's whenever they rose to a number 1 spot. And they actually do already own a win over Illinois earlier in the season. So, Ohio State has a chance to sweep Illinois and increase their seeding potential dramatically. Let's see here. Let me go back real quick. So, I know it's weird because I'm ducking my head like this, but I got to figure out a better spot for my camera because I'm having to lean the screen down and there's a glare on it. So that's why I keep having to bend my head down in a weird... Be quiet. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. My cats. They know. For some reason, they are like super, super jealous of whenever I do a live show. But, whatever. So, Alabama... Arkansas is super hot. I think they deserve a higher ranking than what they have. Florida State, they've just had a ton of COVID issues. Villanova's gotten hot again. They'll play against Creighton. Houston, I just don't know what to do with them. They have a lot of wins, but they have 2 really, really bad losses. Oklahoma State's really, really hot right now. Kansas, they just beat Baylor. That's going to pay big-time dividends for Kansas. That's going to help their seeding. Probably already is. But even, because that's what they do. They look at resumes. So, yeah, that's basically why I have Ohio State seated where I do. Let me look at some of your comments real quick. Lenny says, Coach K is a fossil. The weird thing about him, though, if you've seen his face over the past 20 years, the dude looks exactly the same. I mean, he does not look like he's aged one. I mean, if you go back to the early 90s, you can definitely tell he's aged. But, like, past 20 years, it doesn't look like the dude is aged, like, at all. Scott says, you don't want to be second place in the Big 12 because whoever is seventh place will beat Iowa State, who is last. It will be 2 versus 7 showdown in the Big 12 tournament. And that could be anybody from Texas Tech to Oklahoma State to, Texas. Well, it would be okay if it was TCU. I'd be okay with TCU. They're not that great. But, yeah, any of those teams would be definitely a challenge. Definitely a challenge. Scott also says the same goes for third in the Big 12. 3 and 6. So you're already looking at matchups. You're looking ahead. I got you. And Ohio State needs to find a way to win that game. Yes, that's a big game. Yeah, that could definitely put Ohio State as a 2 seed. I could see the argument for the Buckeyes as a 3 seed. I definitely could see that. But for them to get a 2 seed, they will definitely have to beat Illinois and then maybe win another game in the Big Ten tournament. It just, you never know. The thing is, just like the playoff committee, the Selection Sunday committee, they're a bunch of human beings, so you can't really, there's no algorithm. I mean, they tell you they go by quad 1 wins, bad losses, strength of schedule, RPI, all that stuff. So we know what goes into it, but we don't know exactly what they're thinking or how high they are on one team or how low they are on another. So you never know what's going to happen on Selection Sunday because they're not consistent. They're human beings. So I don't know about that. Yeah, Lenny, that's a good point. He's been coaching since 1979. People don't realize that. What about Jim Boeheim at Syracuse? He's been, Boeheim, he actually looks his age. Boeheim, he's been coaching at Syracuse for 4 or 5 decades. Who knows? So let's see here. 70s, 80s, 90s, thousands. Yeah, Coach K has been there. This is decade number 6. I mean, technically not decade number 6, but we're saying, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, the teens, and the 2020s. So he's seen 6 different decades while he's been at Duke. That's kind of nuts, guys. I didn't think about that. Nick says, Iowa winning it all. Iowa needs to be more consistent, but I do think that Iowa is definitely a dangerous team. They go through these periods where they go through slumps, and they've gotten beat by teams, not like really bad losses, but they've gotten beat by teams that you're like, you knew Iowa was the better team. Michigan State, that's the team that I'm keeping my eye on in the Big Ten. They have come out of nowhere, and they are super, super hot. I think they have an excellent chance of making the NCAA tournament. And there for a while, I had the Spartans dead in the water, like no chance. And they've just gotten really, really hot. I don't know if they would make the tournament as of right now. They might need a few more wins. Definitely would make the NIT. But, man, Spartans are super, super hot, beating some good teams. I believe they beat Iowa, Illinois, Ohio State. I mean, the list goes on. They're on fire right now. Lenny says he's coached against MJ. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Michael Jordan, he was at North Carolina, in the 80s, and Coach K coached against Michael Jordan. Man, think about that. That's some crazy stuff when you think about it. I was 5 years old whenever Michael Jordan was at North Carolina, 5, 6, something like that. No, maybe younger than that, like 3 or 4, something like that. I'd have to go back and see exactly what years, but really, really young. And freaking Coach K was, well into his coaching career. So he's been coaching past my entire life. That's over 40 years. I'm 30. I just turned 38, and that's 3 years more than me. So yeah, over 40 years. That's amazing. And he's had a lot of success at Duke. Duke would not be Duke without Coach K. Coach K has made Duke what they are today. And even if you look at Duke's home gymnasium, it is not very big. I mean, you go to Louisville, I think Louisville has the biggest basketball stadium in college basketball, like 22,000. Duke, a perennial powerhouse, their gym holds either right at 10,000 or less than 10,000. It's not that big at all. So he's done, and a lot of people hate Duke, including myself. I don't like Duke. Never have, never will. But the fact of the matter is, Coach K has done a lot with not that much. So he's built an empire over that. And I'll be very, very interested to see how Duke does after Coach K. Can they keep that brand going? Will they go, south? Can they at least maintain? Will they get better? I don't know. A lot of questions there, but I know Coach K has way more years behind him than he does in front of him. He'd be like over 120 years old if he didn't. So, yeah, he definitely does. How many years? I don't know. That's going to be another story for another day. Man U. How is Western Kentucky's chances in the NCAA or NIT? You know what? Let's look at that real quick. We're going to look at Western Kentucky real quick. Guys, don't be afraid to ask about your team. We'll take a look at them, and I'll give you my opinion. Yeah, I like that format. So they're in Conference USA, right? Yeah. So the official format for this show is who's your team, and we'll talk about it. So Man U, your team is Western Kentucky. Freaking glare. So they're 17-5, first in Conference USA. That's a good start. All right, so let's look at their schedule real quick. See how they're doing. I mean, honestly, that right there shows me they're probably going to make the tournament, to be honest with you. All right, so they actually played West Virginia really good. That Memphis win right here, that's a good win. I have Memphis in, so that's a good win right there. Let's see who else we have. Loyola lost to Louisville. That's not bad. Let's see, Gardner-Webb. Oh, look at this right here. Alabama. That's a really good win. So, yeah, that's why I'm thinking Western Kentucky will be in. Not a great loss to Charlotte and Louisiana Tech, but that's okay. Especially with that win over Alabama. So, yeah, I'm not seeing... I mean, I know y'all got blown out by Houston, but 17-5... First in Conference USA, you have pretty good wins over Memphis and Alabama. I would have Western Kentucky as maybe a 12 seed. It could be one of those. It could be one of those 12 versus 5 scenarios you might be looking at. You might be one of those 12 seeds that could upset a 5 seed. My brother's in the house, Engineer. What's going on, man? I've decided the format for this particular team is people giving me the name of the team that they're a fan of, and we're going to look at whether I think they're in or not, and if they are in, what seed would I give them. So we're looking at Man U's team, which is Western Kentucky. I think they're in right now, and I would put them in that proverbial 12 seed. So you could be... If I had to guess off the top of my head, I would say a 5 seed would be somebody like maybe a Virginia. Western Kentucky and Virginia. Maybe Virginia Tech, maybe a Texas Tech, something like that. Somebody ranked in the lower top 25. So that's what Western Kentucky is looking at right now. The rest of you guys, who's your team? And I'll look them up real quick and let you know whether they're in or whether they're out. And if they're in, what seeding I would give them as of right now. So there's Western Kentucky. I have them as a 12 seed. And if I had to guess, I would say against a 5 seed like Texas Tech, Virginia Tech, or Virginia. Lenny says Alabama. Oh, Alabama's in. They're in. They're first place. They're first place in the SEC. I'm still going to look them up for you. I got you, man. But, yeah, look at this. Alabama first in the SEC. They've already got 20 wins. They're 20-6. All right, so they've had some interesting losses, though. I will say that. They lost to Stanford. Stanford is playing their way out of the tournament. That's an interesting loss. They lost to Clemson. Clemson's a pretty good team. They lost to Western Kentucky. That helps Western Kentucky. But look at these wins. They got to win over Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas, LSU twice. They swept LSU. Georgia's a good win. They split the series with Arkansas. They won one and they lost one. So, yeah, Alabama's in good shape. Right now, I would have Alabama as a 3 seed. Could end up being a 2 seed depending on what goes around them, but The SEC isn't all that strong right now. I think they only have 2 ranked teams, Alabama and Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken. That could change next week, but Alabama, I would have you as a 3 seed right now, not a 2 or a 1. There's a lot of teams above you. But Alabama could make it in as a 2 seed. Yes, they could. But for me, I would have them as a 3 seed because they don't have as many they don't really have any bad losses, okay? So that's good. But they don't have as many resume building wins, say like my team, West Virginia, or who else am I thinking of? Iowa. They have a lot of great wins, stuff like that. That's what keeps Alabama in the 3 seed range. But a high 3 seed. Okay, let me break the tournament down for you real quick. People don't realize this. They really don't. But this is a fact, okay? The way the brackets are set up is, and try to wrap your mind around this because it's a little complicated. The way it's set up is the number 1 overall seed, which is going to be Gonzaga, is supposed to technically have the easiest brackets. So we all know there's 4 regions, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each region has a 1 seed, each region 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, and on down the list. So whoever the weakest 2 seed would get sent to the Gonzaga bracket. The weakest 3 seed is going to go to the Gonzaga bracket. All of the weakest of that particular seed, considered weakest, goes to that, and it falls down the line. Second weakest would go to probably Baylor. Third weakest would go to Michigan, and then the toughest out of the seeds would go to, I think, Illinois right now. I have Illinois as a 1 seed, so that's how that works, and that's why I said Alabama would be a strong 3 seed. So you would probably, Alabama, I would put them in the same bracket as an Illinois as the 1 seed, because I have Illinois as the weakest 1 seed. Alabama is the strongest 3 seed, so they would be in the same bracket. A lot of people think that the Selection Sunday Committee is like trying to screw people. We're going to give them the toughest matchup. We're going to give them the easiest matchup. No, there's actually a formula, and it just depends on if you're considered a weak or a strong particular seed. You might be barely a 4 seed, so that would make you the weakest 4 seed, so you're going to get stuck in a strong bracket. That's why people don't realize this is why seeding matters and the strength of your seed. Not all 4 seeds are the same. If you're on the bottom of that 4 seed line, you're going into the toughest bracket. So that's what you got to keep an eye out for that. You want to be, honestly, I would rather be a strong 3 seed than a weak 2 seed. The 2 seed is going to get the 15 matchup, the 2-15 instead of the 3-14. So that first matchup is more favorable for the 2 seed, but you're going to get stuck in a much stronger bracket. So it's a lot of give and take. It's would you rather have a tough matchup right off the bat, or not tough, but tougher or easier, or would you rather be stuck in a tougher bracket? It's, of course, you don't really get to choose that. The selection committee gets to choose that for you. But you're hoping you get that good matchup and not such a tough bracket. Not all roads to the Final Four are the same. Case in point, 2018, I believe, West Virginia, I think they were a 5 or a 6 seed. But anyways, whatever seed they were that year, they were a weaker. So if they were a 5 seed, they were, I think the weakest. I think they barely missed the next line by 1. So they were, West Virginia, my team, they were stuck in the bracket with Villanova. Well, lo and behold, West Virginia ended up having to play Villanova in the Sweet 16. And guess who won the national championship that year? Villanova. But guess who played Villanova the best? West Virginia. West Virginia was the only team that had a lead late in the game against Villanova. But because we were a weaker whatever seed we got stuck in Villanova's bracket. And so we ended up having to play the eventual national champions earlier than I would have, liked. It's one of those things. That's our luck. All right, so Scott says, I'm not going to ask about Baylor, but yeah, blah, blah, blah. We already know. Baylor's going to be a 1 seed. Tennessee in or NIT? Oh, dude, that's actually pretty good. I am glad. At one time, I had Tennessee as a lock. They were doing really good. Let's take a look at Tennessee real quick. Standings, yep, that's where I want to be. All right, we will go down to the SEC. All right, so Tennessee, still not that bad though. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're in the upper half. Can't see my cursor. All right, there they are. They are 16-7. Yeah, I would still. Let's take a look at them. I would still have them in though, for sure. Let's look at their what seed I would actually have them though. They had a rough beginning of the year. Look at that. They had to cancel 3 games. Decent win over Colorado. That's actually a good win. Let's see. Let me go down. A win over Missouri. That's a good win. Arkansas, good win. Kansas, really good win. Georgia, good win. Any bad losses? Let's see here. Alabama, that's fine. Florida, that's fine. Missouri, that's fine. Ole Miss, actually fine. Kentucky, that's a bad loss. And Auburn, that's a bad loss. So, yeah, recently, Tennessee's not been doing all that great. They lost to a bad Kentucky team, and they lost to a not-so-good Auburn team. It's probably a good thing that they beat Vanderbilt because that would have set them on a bad precedent. Next game, March 7th against Florida. Yeah, I have Tennessee in. If I had to predict let me go up. I got to see what place they are in the SEC real quick. They are in. Okay, they're 5th in the SEC. That's not bad at all. So, if I were seeding Tennessee, look, that's 2 bad losses. But let me recount that. Sorry, guys, I forgot to count. But that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 5 quad 2 and up. Probably 4 of those were quad 1. So Tennessee, I would have them seated maybe around the, 7 or 8 mark. They might end up in an 8 versus 9. All right, Manu, that's cool. I'll see you later. Tennessee might end up in one of those proverbial 8 versus 9 matchups and then have to play the number 1 seed after they beat the 16th seed. So, yeah, that's going to be tough for Tennessee, especially with the downward trend. At one time, Tennessee was really, really hot. If you go up right here, right there, that was when Tennessee was at its best. Well, even after that loss, they won 2. So maybe right here was at their best. After that, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Doesn't seem that bad, but whenever you start going win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, those losses add up. That's why they've dropped. So yeah, I got Tennessee as an 8 or 9 seed. They're not going to go far in the tournament, but their record, 16-7, 5th in the SEC. They're in the tournament. No doubt about that. They're in the tournament, but they're going to be a quick exit. Cash 45, what's going on, man? Thanks for stopping by. Aaron says, can you go over the conference tournaments that already started, particularly the Horizon, because it's crazy over there? Yeah, let me get to that in a second. Cash 45, Tennessee is going to be an 8 seed for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. Tennessee needs to win the next game and win 2 SEC tournament games to help resume. Yeah, if they want to get out of that, 8-9 matchup, they need some wins. People don't realize the difference between a 7 seed and an 8 seed is big difference. Because whether you're an 8 or a 9 seed, you're going to end up playing a 8 or a 9 seed. You bump up to a 7 seed, then you have a little bit of a gap, a 7 versus a 10. It's still a strong matchup, but it's better than facing an 8 or a 9. Tennessee would easily lose to a team like Belmont or Wisconsin. Thank you for mentioning Belmont. I have gotten so much crap for having Belmont in my brackets as a decent team with a decent seed. Belmont is a good team. That is a very good comment. I appreciate that. Yes, Belmont. Dude, you're going to have to, spell out your name with some pronunciation because I want to say your name and give you credit, but I cannot pronounce that. MGTN Kesar, maybe? Yeah, I'm going to need a lesson on that. MGTN. I'm missing something. That's got to stand for something. Anyways, MGTN Kesar says, Gold and Blue Dude, I think West Virginia is a 2 seed. I agree with that. But the bracketologists don't think so. Doesn't surprise me. West Virginia has no bad losses. Ding, ding, ding. Houston does. Houston has 2 bad losses. Correct. And they have played only Texas Tech, which we beat, we beat them twice. We swept them. We have to prove. Yeah, I know. Houston being a seed above West Virginia is nonsense. I have Houston as a 3 seed because, they do have a lot of wins. But above West Virginia, hell no. Houston has 2 really... Okay, you brought up Houston. Let's go to Houston real quick. Because, yeah, that one, I didn't know that. I try not to keep up with those guys on Bracketology on ESPN because they don't know what they're talking about. They're a bunch of idiots. So, the American Conference with Houston. We're even ranked ahead of Houston this week. Well, we probably won't after this week, but that's fine. So, they did beat Texas Tech. That's fine, but we swept them. Boise State, that's actually a decent win. But after their non-conference game, look at this. Nothing. UCF, not good. SMU, decent. Wichita State, that's a good win. UCF, Tulsa, Temple, Tulane, SMU. So those 2 wins against SMU is... Look, lost to East Carolina. That's terrible. Okay, my bad. Only 1 bad loss because that loss to Wichita State's not, all that bad. So, but, they got Western Kentucky, which West Virginia got, and Texas Tech, which West Virginia swept. So we'll call that a wash. Besides that, who do they have? Let's see. Boise State, that's decent. You know what? Hold on. Give me 1 second, guys, here. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right. I'm going to write this down. So we got Boise State. I'm going to show you right here, right now, this side by side and how ignorant that these people on ESPN on. So Boise State, South Carolina, that's not a good win. Temple, no. We'll say SMU. I'll give that to them. Not a great win, but I'll give it to them. Wichita State, which I know we already got. Just for arguing's sake, we got Wichita State, Tulane, no. UCF, no. Tulsa, no. Temple, no. Tulane, no. SMU twice. Congratulations. Did I get Texas Tech? No, my bad. Texas Tech. Okay, Texas Tech. Let's go on down now. Temple, Tulane, SMU. Bad loss, ECU. All right, East Carolina. Got it. Did they not play Memphis? Western Kentucky, that's a good win. But so did we. All right, so there you go. I got it written down. Now we're going to go over to West Virginia's. Real quick. All right, let me go to the Big 10, Big 12. So this is me side-by-side comparison. I like to write things down because my memory's not all that great. So we're 17-7. Houston's 20-3. Of course, the record looks like, they're a better team. We play in a much tougher conference. All right, so VCU, that's a good win. Western Kentucky, that's going to wash, though, because they do too. Western Kentucky. Let's see. All right. Georgetown, no. RMU, no. North Texas, no. Richmond, that's yeah. Not a great win, but it's comparable to Houston's. Iowa State, no. Northeastern, no. Oklahoma, no. Oklahoma State, that's a good win now. Really good win, actually. We got to play them again. Let's see. Kansas State, no. Texas Tech. Texas Tech. Iowa State, no. Kansas, yes. Texas Tech again. Oklahoma, no. All right, Texas. Not Kansas State. Baylor, no. I think that's it. All right, so make sure I didn't miss anything, and then we're going to run down this real quick. Actually, you know what? South Dakota State is a good win. Go look it up. That is a good win. I was surprised. I looked it up the other day. It's actually a good win. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. North Texas, no. Iowa State, no. Northeastern, we lost to Texas. Kansas State, I got Texas Tech, Kansas, Texas Tech again. Okay, so here we go. Our worst loss was what? Maybe Florida. Florida was our best loss. All right. Worst loss. So here we go, guys. First, Houston. So their bad loss, East Carolina. Our bad loss, Florida. Check, West Virginia. All right, so they beat Texas Tech. We did. So that'll wash right there. I forgot about... No, that's VCU. Never mind. Western Kentucky and Western Kentucky, that's a wash. Let's compare SMU to VCU. VCU's a little bit better, so that washes one of those out. Richmond versus SMU, I'll give that to them. So check for them. Besides that, Boise State compared to... So really the only great win that we don't have is Wichita State. And we have Kansas. We have another Texas Tech win. We have a Texas win. And we have an Oklahoma State win. There is no way on God's green earth that Houston should be a higher seed than West Virginia. I wrote the good wins for each team down. And the only win that's even comparable to what we have, they have Texas Tech. We swept Texas Tech. They have Wichita State, and we have like Kansas, Texas Tech, Texas, Oklahoma State. No, that's nonsense. And they lost to a very, very bad East Carolina. In that particular scenario, I have to give the check mark to West Virginia. Not because that's my team, but that's because common sense. If you play bad teams, you're going to win more games. Look at, similar opponents. West Virginia has beaten way more good teams, no bad losses. That is end of story. Yeah, that's just dumb. All right, moving on. Just call you Morgantown. I like that, man. You should change it to Morgantown. That's actually not. That's not. I mean, you can keep it like that, but I'm telling you, Morgantown. That would be a great name. I actually like that a lot. Of course, I'm a West Virginia fan. Golden Blue Dude, will you make a rant video on that commentator on West Virginia? Oh my gosh. Yes, I will. If y'all did not catch my live show yesterday, I went off. But yeah, I can actually make a rant video on that because that dude, freaking idiot. He should not be announcing a basketball game. He had no idea what he was watching. He don't know the difference between a charge and a guard and the different scenarios it takes for one to be different from the other. Yes, I will most definitely make a rant video about that. What is Wichita State in? I think they're in the A10 actually. And no. Wait. I see what you're saying. I think they're in the same thing as Houston, the AAC. Give me a second here. And the weird thing is, I actually think that Wichita State is in first place. Go back. Oh, I should have went to standings right there. What am I thinking? Oh, that'll work. That's rankings. We'll go to standings. Yeah, Wichita State, if I'm not mistaken, because I looked this up the other day, and I was actually kind of surprised. They're in the same, I believe. Yeah, Wichita State. They are 13-4. Yeah, they're in first place in the AAC, and it looks like, because the weird thing is, people don't realize this, because teams aren't playing the same amount of games, the way that they're ranking, and I found this out the other day, I actually didn't know, the way that they're not ranking, but standings within conferences is they actually have to go by winning percentage. So as you see right here, I'll put my cursor on it, that is what they're going by right there, winning percentage, not wins and losses, because you can't really tell because they haven't played the same amount of games. But if you look at winning percentage, Wichita State has a slightly better winning percentage, and that's what they're going by this year because of the COVID nonsense. I think they go by that every year, but you can usually tell by, wins and losses in that category. But see the disparity right here, 13-4, 20-3. That's a big disparity as far as games played, so they're going by percentage. Personally, I think Wichita State should be ranked in the lower 20s, but that's just me. They're not a great team, but yeah, they're a decent team. All right, let me scroll down on here. Memphis is making a comeback season. They could be an 11 seed or a 12 seed. Yeah, I actually talked about that earlier. They're actually on a six game winning streak right now. So I actually have Memphis in my brackets right now. Barely, but they are in. A loss to Western Kentucky, a loss to VCU. Those are not bad losses. A loss to Auburn, that actually is a bad loss. Loss to Tulsa, not terrible, not great. Well, 2 losses to Tulsa. They have a win over Wichita State. They split with SMU, so that's good right there. And, yeah, not a great resume, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row. And they do have a win over SMU and a win over Wichita State. That win over Wichita State and their winning streak will probably be their saving grace. Yes, I have Memphis in probably as a 12 seed, maybe a 13 seed, depending on how the conference tournaments go. Good job. That's a great comment. Yes, I agree. Is Wichita State winning the AAC? I don't know. Let me see how many, because I don't know if they have makeup games. Houston might be done for the year, to be honest with you. Let me see what Houston has left. And then we'll check on Wichita State. So Houston, they might have 1 game left. Yeah, they have Memphis left. So that's a chance for Memphis. That's, perfect. That's what we were talking about. Houston has 1 game left, and Wichita State might have some makeup games. Let me check real quick here. Because they missed a significant amount of games due to COVID. By the way, if you just stumbled across this screen and you're like, man, what the heck is Golden Blue Dude? What is this guy? Well, of course, I'm a sports YouTuber, and I make videos every day. It's either college football or college basketball. So if you're not subscribed and you need your fix, maybe not every day, but maybe, your other channels that you follow are not doing anything that day. I'm always doing something. So there you go. Hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. And don't forget to hit the like button. That helps as well. All right, so I'm not really sure because it has East Carolina and SMU postponed. Temple is canceled. They have Tulane. That's a tough one to call because, if it goes like that, then I don't think they deserve to win it. But if they're going by winning percentage, they might win it because they haven't had to play as many games. That's an interesting question. Personally, I think they should give it to, if it's that close, I think they should give the regular season title to Houston because they've played way more games. But I don't know the answer to that question. Somebody look into that. That's really interesting. Good comment. Yeah, Morgantown. Record doesn't always indicate how good a team is. Yes. Loyola is leading their conference again. If they make the tournament, what seed do you think they'll be, and how far will they go? Loyola could end up, man, right now I have Loyola as a single-digit seed. That's how good they're doing, and they're ranked. If they keep playing the way they're playing and win their conference tournament, they could end up as a 6 seed, possibly a 5 seed, outside chance, but possibly a 5 seed. And if that's the case, we could be looking at a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8 Loyola Chicago. It all depends on what. It's hard to predict how deep a team is going to go. Even my own team, I think we have Final Four players, but what bracket are we going to get stuck in? Are we going to be a low 3 seed versus a are we going to be a low 2 seed versus a high 3 seed? Tough matchup to start off with, or an easy matchup but a tough bracket. It's a lot of things to take into consideration. But as far as talent goes, yeah, I think Loyola Chicago could easily be a Sweet 16 Elite 8 team. They're in the Missouri Valley, aren't they? Let me check on them real quick. That's Horizon. That's the tournament that's going on, right? Yeah, Missouri Valley, 21-4. Right now they're ranked number 20. Who do they have left? I think they split the season series with Drake, so that's something they don't have to deal with until the tournament, if they do indeed get matched up. Let's see, Loyola. Got beat by Wisconsin, Richmond. That's not terrible. Bradford, Indiana State. That's not a good loss, but okay. And split with Drake, SIU. So they have one game, but to be determined. I don't see who that matchup is against. So yeah, I think right now if I had to seed them, I would put them as a 6 seed, but they could end up being a 5 seed, and a lot of crazy things would have to happen, and they would have to definitely be bumped up in their ranking. No, I'm going to say they're not going to be a 4 seed. There's no way. They would have to be super lucky to even be a 5 seed. But I'm calling a 6 seed. I think Loyola is going to be a 6 seed. Scott says Houston needs to be a 3 seed or somewhat low 2 seed. Just stick with 3 seed. They're not a 2 seed. I don't like that. So here's Cash 45's rundown. Michigan, Florida State, Baylor, Alabama, Villanova, USC, VCU, Houston, Gonzaga, San Diego State, Loyola, North Texas, Toledo, Colgate, James Madison, Furman, South Dakota State, Georgia State, Texas Southern, and Norfolk State. No, I am not running through all those teams' records and resume. That's insane, but nice try. Oh, all conference leaders. I should have read that under. I thought you were asking me to break down all of their. I was like, no way. That's interesting. Good job. So Michigan, Florida State, Baylor, Alabama, Villanova, USC. USC still leading the Pac-12. I thought somebody overtook them. I thought UCLA was the top dog there right now. Every single Horizon quarterfinal game went to overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, or a loss by 1 point. That's crazy. I didn't know that. Big Sexy SW. Nice name, by the way. Michigan, most dangerous team beside Gonzaga. Your thoughts? They have the potential to be a dangerous team, but All right, let me pull up Michigan real quick. After this, I'm gonna hop off here, fix some dinner for my kids. So yes, Michigan still in first place, even though they got beat by Illinois. All right, so yes, Michigan. Yeah, they have the chance of being a very, very, very dangerous team, especially with Hutchinson. Let me look at what happened with the Illinois game. Michigan, they got Michigan State twice. That's no joke right there. Oh, they got handled by Illinois actually at home. That's not a good sign right there. 76-53. What the heck happened? All right, so I want to pull this down and show you something real quick. So this right here, they have to avoid this and this. Bad shooting. That's Michigan's biggest problems. Sometimes they go through these situations where, and it's not necessarily against a really good defense, it's actually against a fellow really good offense. Illinois has a really good offense. They don't have a great defense. They have a great offense. Sometimes Michigan will come up against a really good offense and they struggle. And we all know in the big dance, there's going to be many teams that have good offenses. So they're going to have to avoid performances like that. But can they be a dangerous team? Oh, absolutely, especially with Dickinson. The dude is legit. I was watching him whenever Michigan beat Ohio State, and that dude is a beast. I didn't even realize. I probably should have, but I didn't even realize how much of a beast that guy is. It's insane. So here's their players real quick. We got Hutchinson, why do I keep saying Hutchinson? It's Dickinson. So right here, those three guys right there are it's Dickinson, Livers, and Wagner. When they're on, they're really on. The problem is these guys down here have got to step up and support them when they do have off games, because everybody has an off game. You can't avoid it. So that's when bench play comes in, and against Illinois, Michigan's bench was terrible. I don't know what happens, but that's what happens to Michigan. So if Michigan can avoid their bench letting them down, they could be a super dangerous team besides Gonzaga. But that's their one issue. So if you're a team that has a deep bench and you can take Michigan deep into the basketball game, either close or have a good lead, you're probably going to win, because Michigan don't have the dogs like that to hang with you. That would be Michigan's one weakness, is their, not really their depth, but the production of their depth needs to be a little bit better for me to lock them in as a Final Four. There's no way I can lock them in as a Final Four right now. I'm going to take a couple more questions, then I'll get out of here real quick. Do you, Jaden, I'm guessing Clem stands for Clemson, so I'm going to say Clemson. Jaden Clemson, do you think Arkansas wins the SEC and get to the Final Four? I do think Arkansas wins the SEC. That's a good comment, dude. I love it. But as far as getting to the Final Four, the problem is, like I've said before, matchups. I have no idea. Whenever the brackets come out, I can make more of an educated guess, because I have no idea what seeding Arkansas is going to be, what bracket they're going to be in. What if they end up playing Gonzaga in the Sweet 16 like West Virginia ended up, something like that. So they had a little bit, I'm bringing up their schedule right here. This was their big issue right here. They had a bad issue in the middle of the season. They lost to Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, and Alabama in a 5-game span. They lost 4 out of 5 in that span. So after that, only one loss, and that was at Oklahoma State. And these are some good wins. Missouri, Florida State, Alabama, LSU. So yeah, I think I want to see their bench and stuff. I'm curious about that. I think Arkansas will win the SEC. To answer that question, I do. Final Four, not sure. Sweet 16, I would lock them in for a Sweet 16 appearance for sure. So yeah, they have a good core right there. Bench is decent. Decent production. Yeah, I like them. And they're on fire. 20-5. 20 wins. One of the rare teams that has 20 wins. I think Alabama does too. So, yeah, I'm going to take Arkansas in the SEC tournament. Final Four, I don't know. I'll lock them in as a Sweet 16 as long as they don't pull something stupid. Tom, is Baylor as dangerous as Gonzaga? No, they are not, especially after coming back from COVID. Can they get back to how they were? Yeah, they probably can, but even the game against West Virginia, it wasn't necessarily Baylor beating West Virginia. I watched the entire game. I'm a West Virginia fan. I'm telling you, West Virginia shot themselves. I mean, one of our guys, Emmett Matthews Jr., for whatever reason, he kept dribbling out of control. Stuff you learn in high school. Control your dribbling. He would take a drive, lose control, and lose the ball. He did it 3 times, I counted. That's 3 possessions. And then there were 2 passes where either Sherman or Bridges could... The pass was directly to them, but for some reason they played volleyball with it and lost it. Stupid things like that. And then that bad charge call at the end, McBride missing that free throw, that would have potentially changed the game because you got to realize that game went into overtime, so 1 point would definitely matter. Just a little thing, some things that West Virginia did to themselves, self-inflicted wounds, and you know that's why that was the main reason why I was mad at the commentators. They weren't telling the real story. And kudos to Baylor. You won the Big 12. It's been a while. But in this particular game, it was more of West Virginia shooting themselves in the foot. I'm not saying Baylor's a bad team. They're a good team. But West Virginia, for whatever reason, they could not get it together. And the commentators were not telling that story. They were telling the story of just how much better Baylor is. And they didn't know the difference between a charge and a guard block. So, yeah, I'm going to do a rant video on that. So I hopefully that answers your question. But I appreciate you guys stopping by. I'm going to get off here. If like I said earlier, if you stumbled on this stream and you're like, man, what the heck is Golden Blue Dude? I don't know this guy. Well, I do videos every day, sometimes college football and sometimes college basketball. Hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. I mean, that's a big deal, guys. That is a big deal, and I'm happy about it. I appreciate it. You can't have a channel without subscribers. So, yeah, I always like to thank my subscribers. And whenever I do hit 1,000, we're going to do a big show for you guys. I'm hoping to do a collaboration with my brothers because, honestly, the way this thing started was me and my brothers. So, we're supposed to head up to West Virginia a week from this weekend. And I could quite possibly hit 1,000 exactly when we're in West Virginia. So that could be like a perfect storm. Get everybody together and, just have a great show. Thank everybody and have something special for you guys. That's the only way to do it. One more comment, or a couple more comments actually. Goat Caden. That's a new name. I do think we could have played better and the announcers were not good. They were awful. Lenny says 61 more to go. Yes, sir, man. 61 more to go. We're going to get there. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. I'm going to get off.